What's going on, guys? Matt with Motorworks here, and we have an unbox, install, and ride video for a half-price Brocks exhaust system. Let's get this thing open. First thing I need to do is get a table so I can show this to you. Oh, that was easy. Next thing I need is the box itself. Oh, hey, it worked. I could choose a cup of coffee. How about a chair? This is fantastic. Yeah, how about we open up this box and get everything laid out? This is fantastic. And now $1 million. Yeah, I tried. Remember to like and subscribe, guys. Maybe we can get to the $1 million that way. But let's get into this thing. Now, what are we looking at? So, this is a company called Hindle. And let me open up this muffler here. Some of you may have heard of Hindle. They're a company that's been around for a very long time. Alright, so there it is. I just cracked open the muffler. Now what this is a Hindle full exhaust system. This is their Evolution series exhaust system. Comes with this sweet looking muffler here. Now I opted for the all stainless system. Now some people might not know this, but Hindle is actually who manufactures a lot of the Brocks performance exhaust systems, mainly their headers. And you know, I'm doing a pan over of the full system now. There's a lot of similarities between Brocks and the Hindle, and that's because Hindle actually manufactures parts for Brocks Performance. Now I know this because I actually reached out to the company, to Hindle themselves, and I just asked them point blank, hey, do you guys make the exhaust system for Brocks Performance? Because just looking at their website and looking at yours, the welds are very similar. Actually, if you look at this, I mean, even the little spring puller, the springs, all that stuff is very similar to the Brocks Performance stuff. I reached out to them and they just basically said, yes, we manufacture Brocks Performance parts, some Brocks Performance parts, to their specific specifications. So it's not exactly the same. Brocks does have their own proprietary way that they actually have them build the exhaust systems. But, I mean, realistically, guys, if you're a company that makes a performance exhaust system for another company that sells a performance exhaust system, are you going to kind of keep a couple secrets to yourself? Just saying. I'm not saying that's what's going on, but I'm just saying. So, this is the exhaust system built specifically for the H2 SX, which is what we're going to be installing this on in a little bit here. And this exhaust looks really good, packaged really well, actually really similar to the way Brocks packs their exhaust. I mean, there's no surprise there. Probably the only thing they do is open it up and put whatever muffler you chose in the box with their setup. But yeah, here it is. I am going to put a link down below for any of the specifics. Hindle themselves do not sell the exhaust system directly to the US. If you try and order it off their website, you won't get redirected, but they'll give you a phone number and a website address for Woodcraft, which is located in America. And as far as I know, Woodcraft is the only place that is authorized to sell the Hindle Performance exhaust. Alright, so currently while I'm uploading this video, Woodcraft hasn't updated their site yet. So if you go to their site to try and buy the exhaust for your H2 SX, it's not going to show that it's available. On Hindle's site, which is the link in the description, you'll see the exhaust there. You just got to reach out to Woodcraft right now. Like I said, at the time of this upload, they don't currently have it listed on their site. But you can get it through them. That's exactly where I got it through, so it shouldn't be a problem getting it through them. When they do have a link for the exhaust, I'll put that down in the description below. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. One more thing. Why do I call this a half-price Brocks exhaust system? Well, because if you order this from Woodcraft the same way I have it set up here, you're spending almost half of what the Brocks exhaust system costs. And eventually I'd like to get this on a dyno just to see how the two compare, because Hindle's claim to fame is they give you an increase in the mid-range as well as the high-end power. And I'm very curious to see how that would stack up to a Brocks exhaust system. As far as I know, I haven't seen any dyno results for the Hindle system on the H2 SX. But looking at others, it looks like they are very similar to the Brocks. So here we go. Let's get her installed on the bike. Now, if you're new to my channel, this is my 2018 Kawasaki H2 SX. It is the SE version. And so far it has been an awesome bike for me, and I like the sound of the exhaust that's on there. Right now it's just got the ZX10 header, and that header's going into a, I believe this is called a Morawaki muffler. Been told that this is something rare, but this is what the bike came with, and I don't like it because when I have the saddlebags on, I have to have it at a harsh angle here, and if I end up taking the saddlebags off to go racing or riding hard and I don't take this extension piece I made off, the exhaust actually comes off the bike and I have to reattach it. So it's just kind of a pain, and it also doesn't really fit well with the center stand. It's not made for this bike, so I just wanted an exhaust that was made for the bike, and that's, you know, what that Hindle is going to do. It's going to be low enough so that I can put the saddlebags on or off, not have to worry about it. And it's actually an exhaust system that's going to fit properly for the bike. And yeah, that's kind of why I went with that setup. So I'm not really going to show you how to strip this down and install this, because this is not a stock bike. So a lot of stuff on this versus a stock bike, the similarities are going to be too drastically different. So I'm just going to get it installed, and then we'll show you what it looks like on, and then we'll do some sound clips and running, because honestly guys, that's why you're watching the video. All right, one little thing before I get everything stripped down. Removing the panel is actually really easy. Just a bunch of screws on the side here, easily seen. This is one of the easier bikes to take apart. Except Kawasaki being Kawasaki, they always make one or two things difficult. So you got to take this front plastic guard, I don't even know what it's protecting, but this plastic guard down, and inside this panel they hid this clip. Don't take that clip out and you're going to break your whole corner off this fairing here, and it'll probably flop around. But it's like, I don't know, Kawasaki always has one little thing. This would be such an easy panel removal if it wasn't for that one little clip. All right, rant over. That sounds really good. Now this has a reflash for the exhaust that was on there, the ZX10 header, and the muffler that was on there. So it should be good enough to go take for a ride. So let's go take a listen to this thing out on the road, and then I'll give you my final thoughts on it. can't wait to ride it. I'm gonna button it up, head out the road. How's this for inconsistencies? It is now a couple days later. I just wanted to get a chance to ride the bike and get a real feel for it. Mix up the RPMs, different gears, you know, cruising around, so I could give you kind of my final thoughts on the sound levels of the exhaust. If you're just cruising around highway speeds, I tried to include a couple clips there at low speed, like somewhere in the 35 to 45 mile an hour range in that first kind of cruising clip, and then the other cruising clip was, you know, your standard highway speeds, whatever you choose to go on the highway. I'm not going to tell you how fast I was going, but I was going at least the speed limit. And at highway speeds, you do notice it. Having the saddlebags on does muffle it a bit, because the muffler, as you can see, I don't know if it's picking it up in the video, but it does sit kind of under the saddlebag. So with the bag on is noticeably quieter than if you take the saddlebag off and ride, you know, with just the exhaust coming up. Nothing hateful. It doesn't really start to make noise until you're actually in it. And when you're in it, you want to stay in it, because this exhaust sounds amazing at higher RPMs. I really like the sound of this exhaust system. This sounds really, really good. You will not be disappointed if you get this exhaust. Now, some of the pros to this exhaust is, for the money, I'm going to keep mentioning this, but for the money, you are getting a fantastic exhaust. Very good quality. The stainless steel, I don't think you're ever going to have an issue with. This is kind of an exhaust you buy for the life of the bike. I don't think you're ever going to have any issues with this exhaust system. They don't use any chintzy clamps to hold it together. It's all slip joint with springs. So worst case scenario, one of the springs breaks and you just get a replacement. Like I said, those springs are basically the same thing that Brocks Performance uses, so I guarantee you will not have a problem finding some replacements in the event that they do fail on you. Another one of the pros is the install went very smoothly. I could have done this in the driveway on the center stand. Now, that being said, I did not have the factory exhaust to deal with, so things like the exhaust servo and removing the O2 sensor, that stuff was already done and already dealt with. All I had to do was remove the ZX10 head pipe with the muffler I had, and I could do that very easily with the center stand still on the bike. I don't know if the same could be said with with removing the stock exhaust. So those are some of the pros there. Some of the cons with this exhaust. Now, because it is a cheaper exhaust system, the welds aren't TIG welded and beautiful like everything else you see now on social media, where they're just so perfect on their welds and perfectly stacked dimes. It's not that. It's MIG welder. I believe they're using stainless wire, so I don't think your welds are going to fail or anything. It's not the prettiest. And, you know, if you're spending good money on a bike like this, you know, you kind of want a nice pretty weld. And yeah, we'll say it's not the prettiest, but hey, it's going to work and it's going to stand the test of time. So, you know, if you're worried about fancy, then, you know, buy a more expensive exhaust. The Brocks exhaust, since it's the same welds, so, you know, at least with this, you know, you're at a price point where it's not, you know, as dramatic as the Brocks, spending a lot of money and getting, you know, subpar welds, if you will. The welds themselves don't look subpar. It's just, again, they're using a MIG welder. They're not TIG welding it, so you get what you get. The fitment on the exhaust to the head of the bike, that fit well. No issues with the fitment. It's just getting the nuts tight. If you don't have the right sockets, I would, you know, highly recommend you get like a universal socket that swivels, as well as just a universal adapter, and that would give you a lot more, you know, maneuverability in there, because it is really tight, especially if you're leaving the radiator in, which I chose to do. If you take the radiator out, it won't be that big of an issue, but, you know, again, like I said, I left the radiator in, and it was just a little bit of a pain. I got everything tight, everything was secure. It was just trying not to damage the radiator and also get the bolts tight. You know, it's a little bit of a struggle there. So I kind of included that on the cons list for that. Another one of the cons to this exhaust here, and I don't think it's a big con. I think it's just because I got the stainless pipe. I think I am going to have to put a heat shield on my bag, because that muffler does get pretty hot. You know, if you're on it for a while, it does get pretty hot. I think if you get the stainless muffler, I don't think you're going to have the issue at all. I don't think it's even going to be a problem. But one of the cons for me is that stainless pipe. I do think for, you know, prolonged rides, if you're doing a lot of, you know, sustained highway speeds, I do think that it is going to get a little bit hot. You know, it could potentially melt the saddlebag. I haven't had any issues yet, but it does get pretty toasty back there. But other than that, I mean, there's not a lot of cons to this exhaust. This is a really nice, and in my opinion, a really high quality exhaust system for the money. You know, I think you spend a lot more on some of these other systems, and you're not getting a much better quality than this. Now, I do want to get this thing on a dyno. Two reasons. One, like I said previously, this bike has been flashed for the ZX10 header with that muffler on there. And from what I've heard, you know, the Brocks exhausts do flow a lot more exhaust. So I'm assuming that this is going to fall along the same lines as that. So I just want to check the tune that's in it and make sure the bike's safe before I mainly go to a drag strip or somewhere where I'm going to be sustained high RPM. So that's kind of be coming up eventually. I'll just run it on a dyno, just do, you know, a basic 3-pool dyno run, see where it's at power-wise, and, you know, just check the air-fuel ratios and make sure that, you know, if it does need to be tuned, I address that before, like I said, I go and hammer on this thing. But I am, as you can see, I've got my GoPro mounts already secured on here. I am going to be putting this on a racetrack. Now, it is for training purposes, so I'm not going to be out absolutely thrashing the bike, but I will be on a racetrack here coming up. and I think that's going to be a whole lot of fun. I'll really get to hear how the exhaust sounds, you know, in all the different RPM ranges. But I will take you along for that one. If you have any questions on the exhaust or any comments you'd like to leave below, please do so. I'd love to hear from you guys. And yeah, we'll see you in the next upload, guys. We're going to take this thing to the racetrack and have some fun on it. But as always, thanks for checking out the video, guys. We'll see you in the next one. I'm Matt. This is Motorworks.